You're watching JD's Variety Channel.
Good night to everyone out there and welcome to the video. It's pretty close to 2 a.m. here, but I just wanted to get this video done before I got all of this off my table. Which, how do you like my new dining table, by the way? It's made out of reclaimed pine. It's pretty cool. Some of these holes actually go the whole way through the table. It's pretty unique. But anyway, this video is just going to be a sort of broad overall picture of the silver coins that I have dug in about 5 years of metal detecting. And I'll kind of update you guys how I'm doing so far this year. And before I get into that, I wanted to share a story of how I first got into metal detecting and my first sorts of memories, and how I found my first silver coin. So first, I'll say I've been meticulously going through my records. Up until about 2 years ago, I kept really good records of all the coins I found, like meticulous records, like even the count of the clad coins. And then in 2015, I got away from that because it was just becoming too time consuming, and I was focusing more on treasure hunting, rather than keeping track of my finds. And also, that's when I lived in the condo for a couple years, and it was kind of limited on space. So anyhow, I've spent literally like all day trying to sort through everything and figure out where I'm at. And it was a little bit tricky because there was a little bit of a discrepancy. And according to my records, I'm missing one more nickel and one silver Roosevelt dime. So I don't know if I lost them, if they got mixed in with something else or some newer finds, which I don't think so, because I spent several hours going through my old videos and trying to piece everything together. So whatever my totals are, worst case scenario, I'm missing 2 silver coins from this lot. Or I should say this array. And I wanted to go back and tell you guys the story of how I first got into metal detecting and how I got away from the hobby for a while. But it all started when I was either 13 or 14 years old, I'm not sure which, but it was then when I had my first memory of wanting a metal detector. And I had already been a coin collector. I started collecting coins when I was 12, and I can actually tell you that story while I'm at it because it's really short. That was when I was 12, it was the first time I ever took interest into coins. And I just remember I was in an Olive Garden with my parents. I think it was after church on a Sunday, and our waiter brought our money back and put it onto the little black tray. And I went through the change, and I remember finding a wheat penny with the wheat ears in the back, and just obviously knew that it didn't look like all the other pennies looked like that I've ever seen. And from then on, I just got into coins when I was 12 years old, and just started collecting like crazy, and started building a massive collection over the next couple of years with money I'd saved up from like my paper route and however else I could get money and trade and swap and you name it. I was doing it. So when I was like 13 or 14, I think 14, or at least later on in 13, I was in Walmart, and at the checkout up against the wall, they just had this huge stack of metal detectors. I don't know if they overstocked them or were just trying to do a sale on them or what. But it was the first time I ever remember seeing a metal detector. And I just saw or maybe I had before, but this is the memory I have that really kind of stuck. So I saw them boxes there, and it's typical metal detectors on the box. It had a picture of the detector, a couple people on it, and coins and jewelry and all that stuff. And I thought, wow, that would be really fun to go out and look for buried treasure. And I was very entrepreneurial and money-minded, so I just fell hook, line, and sinker for that type of thing. So for my 14th birthday, and I think my parents got it for me, like early, like a little bit before my birthday. Call it a birthday gift. When you get your kids something expensive, you got to find an excuse to give it to them, I guess. Because my parents really didn't have too much money growing up. I mean, we were fortunate. My dad worked hard, and we got by. We're not rich by any means, so something $200, that was a pretty big deal. They tried to get my brother and I one nice gift, every Christmas, and so they got me the metal detector, and I immediately started looking through our yard, and we had owned like 1 1/3 acre in the middle of the woods, and my parents had lived there since they got married and had my brother. He was 2 years older than me, so I grew up there, and I started looking around the yard, and didn't really know what I was doing. They bought me a White's Classic 2. It was a $200 detector at the time. We're talking, like 14 years ago, and it was a 2-knob machine, and I'll tell you that was a good thing because it was extremely easy to learn. It was like a 5.5-inch coil, just a small coil, and 2 knobs, a discrimination knob and a sensitivity knob, which I didn't really even know much about what sensitivity was, that other than the manual just said to put it like facing this one area. So I never touched it. I just put it on the factory setting, and the only thing I ever switched around was the discrimination knob, and I learned how if you turned it up higher, you got rid of your trash and your pieces of cans and pull tabs and all that stuff. And in areas where there's a lot of trash like parks, I learned to turn it up into the coin range, so I could only find like pennies, dimes, quarters, and good stuff. So I was able to figure that out, kind of at an early age, having never known anyone, no one ever taught me. I taught myself how to metal detect. And I started looking through our yard, and I found like a good bit of pocket change, between the front steps and the driveway. And I still remember back at that age trying to piece things together where the best areas were to find stuff. And I had found some coins in the clothesline that, my mom had probably dropped out of the pockets over the last, almost 20 years. And I remember probably the most interesting thing, just trying to piece things together in my head at that age. I had remembered, down on the way bottom of our property, and we're talking rural, other than we had one neighbor that was maybe, 1,000 feet down the road, and other than that, it was that was it for a mile. There was nothing else back there. And I had went down by the creek in front of our house, and I found a quarter that was, it was already 3 inches deep, and then it triggered off in my mind that, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, that's where our old swing set used to be. And my brother and I and our cousin used to just go wild on that swing set and swing ridiculously high and do all kinds of stuff. And, I figured that, wow, one of us had lost that quarter out of our pocket 5 years ago, and it just kind of blew my mind. So fast forwarding to the story of how I found my first silver coin, I used to go, I was really into it for a while. I used to, go places with my parents, and I would take it with me. When we would go to parks or something, or I'd say, hey, I want to can you take me around a playground or something so I could look with the metal detector? And so I went around. I got really, really good at cherry picking coins, but I had no idea what I was doing as far as I didn't know how to find older stuff. And this specific metal detector and coil, I couldn't get deeper than 4 inches on a quarter. So, I was kind of limited in that, but I really learned how to use that thing. So I got good at digging change and all that sort of thing, and dug lots of clad, here and there. I didn't detect a ton, but whenever I could, and whenever there was a new spot. And I remember I did find at least 1 or 2 wheat pennies, because I remember the one time I was at a playground mopping up the coins in the tot lot, and I was doing the ground outside of the tot lot, and I had found one of the wheat pennies, and because it surprised me, and I saw the 1 cent on the back, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. So I didn't know how to find old stuff, but I did stumble on a couple wheat pennies. And I specifically remember I had lived in Pennsylvania at the time, and one time our family went to Ohiopyle State Park, and I took the metal detector with me and was finding, some change, not a ton of it, but was looking in the sandy areas. They have a little a little beach area, and I was looking. I remember because I would go at it like 2 hours would fly by, and I'd still be swinging. I just loved it, and I can remember I was probably, I mean I don't know, only about in the general vicinity of the main attraction there, which is this massive waterfall, and I was probably, I don't know, like 500 feet away from it or something. I was kind of halfway down this one path toward it on these rocks, and anyone who has ever been to Ohio State Park know that it's just, the main part of the park is just like a massive rock formation, just giant. It's just nothing but rocks. And I was finding some clown coins and some junk and you name it, just the usual, nothing fantastic. And, I don't even think I found a ring or anything really special, my first year of doing it. And so I got a really good blasting signal that I knew that, was at least a coin or something good. And all I remember, I was on the rocks, and the only thing that had grown over these rocks was moss. I mean, because grass isn't going to grow on these massive rock formations. So I got this good signal, and there was just this like big strip of moss. So I took my hand and I peeled back the moss, and believe it or not, sitting on the rock was a 1964 silver Roosevelt dime. And since I'd collected coins for 2 years already, I knew right away what it was, and I still remember that at that age, silver Roosevelt dimes were worth like 50 cents at the time, because silver was really cheap. When I was 14, it was a silver Roosevelt dime. I mean, you could buy Mercury Dimes in any coin shop for like 50, 60 cents a piece. That's what they were at the time. So to me, it wasn't anything special, because at that a young age, I was actually, really entrepreneurial, and like to me, it's like I equated it in my mind as 50 cents. Like it wasn't special to me, like as a coin, and I no longer have it. I have no idea what happened to it. At one point, when I think I was like 16 or something, I had sold off my almost my entire coin collection, because I was just really into business, and buying and selling and trading and eBay and all that stuff. So that first silver coin is long gone. But after I kind of hit the metal detecting, hard, when I was like 14, and, I didn't have too many places to do it. I did it once in a while when I was out, but I kind of got away from it. Kind of did it a little bit here and there, up until I was maybe 16, 17, 18. We're just talking maybe a few times a year or whatever. And eventually, when I started working my day job and playing more sports, I just completely forgot about it, and then picked it back up almost 6 years ago, and you guys all know the story since then. So everything here is pretty much from the last almost 6 years, but we're going to be doing almost the last 5 years kind of in this video, not really focusing on what I found this year. So everything here is from almost 5 years of metal detecting, and prior to that, it was just hit and miss. I did a little bit here and there, when I was a teenager, and found some clad, one silver dime, and maybe a couple Wheaties, and that was about it until my newest adventure just turned into more of like an obsession. So I'm going to charge my camera battery, and I will be back in a moment. So I am back after switching my camera battery, and we're going to jump right back in to the last 5 years from 2012, like I would say, I think it was the last day in January to be exact, when I went into the ice and started chipping out zinc pennies, because I couldn't wait till the ground thawed, and I bought all kinds of equipment that I didn't need because I had discovered metal detecting videos on YouTube in 2012 during the long, harsh winter in Pennsylvania, and I was ready to go even before the snow melted. So from the end of January 2012 till the end of 2016 is what I'm showing you here. And some of these finds are what I found this year. So in just under 5 full years of metal detecting, I'm going to go through briefly. I'm not going to really show many coins close up. This is just kind of a general video, and I'll show some of the other stuff later. But starting off, the first year I had metal detected, I had meticulously put all my finds into a folder like this. All the silver coins, all the special things, even silver pendants and all sorts of things. If you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, I have showed this before, so I'm not going to go in depth on it. But that's the first year of metal detecting, and then from 2013, 14, and 15 is pretty much everything right here, and those are the coins from last year, 2016. This is only silver coins, except for in this folder there's like buffalo nickels and rare coins and things that aren't silver. But this video is focused on silver. I will say that because they're kind of mixed in, you can't tell. The first year I detected, the first year I, as a series hobby, I found 219 silver coins, and they're, if you've been subscribed, there's a reason why I found that many the first year. Well, there's a couple of reasons, but one really good spot, we'll say that just to keep that part short. So I'm just going to go through and tell you exactly what I found as far as the types of silver coins and how many, because I finally got my records done here. So in the 5 years, I found one Morgan dollar, and that was last August. I'm sure most of you have seen that. I will show this one up close. 1888 Morgan dollar in amazing condition. Found on a corner lot in just a old little one like stoplight town. Awesome permission I had. Loved that place. It was so fun to hunt. But I found one Morgan dollar. That was last August. I found 9 foreign silver coins, and to briefly go through those, 50 centimes from Belgium, massive big peso from 1926 peso from Mexico, 72% silver, amazing find. A 50% silver British half crown, World War II period. The Nazi coin, I'm sure all of you have seen. I've showed that one quite a few times. One of my favorite coins I've always wanted to find, which I found in 2014, is an Australian 1943 threepence, or in Britain they call them thrapney bits. And that was actually minted in San Francisco. It was obviously some sort of pendant or something. Actually got 2 holes, could have been on a bracelet. And well, this isn't foreign technically, but 50 centavos from the Philippines. And I also found a 20 centavos from the Philippines in the same yard as the Morgan dollar. And then I found a few other foreign ones that are in this folder here. I think it's a British 3p and a 6p. So yeah, quite a few British silvers, which is not too uncommon. So going on from there, I found 3 Barber half dollars, which 2 of are in here. One's in the folder. 1905, I know that's an S, and an 1895 New Orleans mint. That's an awesome one there. Found that in 2015. I still remember that. Found these both in 2015. So from there, I found 8 Walking Liberty half dollars, some of which are right here. And I think there's 1 or 2 in there as well. I found 6 Franklin half dollars, just to show you one of those. They are scattered all around. I found 2 of them in 2016, and there's a look at another one there. So that was 6 Franklin half dollars. I found 9 Barbour Quarters. There's some of them there, and one of them, that's one of the nicer ones, is a 1905 O. And I know I said recently, I thought I'd only found like 3 O-mint coins, but I found a few more than I thought I did. Have the 1/2, the 1/4, the Morgan I found recently, and like 1 or 2 Barber Dimes. So I have found like 4 or 5 O-mint coins. And now that was one of the interesting Barber Quarters I found in a park that had had a lot of excavation work and has like this big iron stain on it. That was pretty cool to find. It was completely unexpected where I found it at. And I may as well show this one. I found this also in the same yard where I found that 1888 Morgan, and man, that yard was just amazing. On a beautiful high grade 1898 Barber Quarter, which looks to be in like very fine condition. It was just amazing coin. It's like a almost $40 coin right there. So it was, did I say 8 Barber Quarters? Well, if I did, it's 9. And then standing Liberty Quarters is one of the things I know elude a lot of people, but it was one of the things that I was fortunate with, because I hunted a lot of places that went back to the 1930s, so that's like one of the best things that you can find, you know, apart from like gold and big silver coins. But I found 21 standing Liberty Quarters, and most of them are right here. And man, they're one of the best coins to find, because you can get some really rare ones. It's one of the easiest coins to find that actually have a significant value. There's a bunch here that are worth quite a bit. Like that one's about a $40 coin, and my best one, I think it's right here, 1921. That's the best coin I've ever found metal detecting as far as value goes. That's worth even more than my gold coin. That's about a $150 coin right there. It's the best coin I have. So I found 21 standing Liberty Quarters. I found 86 silver Washington Quarters. Did really strong on those, you know, for a while. I think it was the first year I detected, and then in 2015 when I just found a ton of stuff. I found a lot of quarters, but the last couple years have just been horrible for finding silver quarters for me. But I found, what did I say? 86 silver Washington Quarters. I'm sure you've all seen these. They look like our quarters today, except they're 90% silver. So got a bunch of them there. There's a few over there from 2016. Like I said, I haven't been finding many. I found 7 of them all year in 2016. Moving on, 4 seeded coins, which are all dimes. 2 of them are in that book there, which I found at an 1883 farmhouse back in Pennsylvania. Awesome place. It was actually the oldest standing building in a really unique area. So that was a really memorable hunt. There was a ton of good stuff in that yard. So I found 2 my first year detecting, and then 2 that came from Seated Hill. It was 1886, and I think that one's 1891 or something like that. So I've never found a seeded Liberty quarter or a $50. Those are both on my bucket list. I've only ever found 4 dimes, and I found another dime earlier this year, but that's not in the tally that we're doing, because we're just doing up to the beginning of this year, or I should say the end of last year. So Barber Dimes, I found 24 and a half, and I'll show you why the half here in a moment. Let's see. So there's some of the Barber Dimes laid out there. That's my best one. That's a rare date. It's an 18... No, that's not it. It's one of them in here. I think, is it that one? Nope. But anyway, here it is. It's this one here. That is an 1895 Philadelphia. That's actually a rare one. That's about a $50 coin, even in rough condition. It'd be worth a lot more in better condition. Like with detail, you know, like with full Liberty, it's like several $100 coin. But, you know, the older coins are kind of strange like that. They can be worth a ton of money with just a little bit more detail. But that's just is how it is. And the reason I say half, 24 and a half, is because last year I found this piece of a Barber Dime that's like super thin and was obviously in a fire at some point, and found that, and was going completely nuts when I found this, because I thought I had found like a piece of a Spanish silver or like a hammered silver from overseas or something. But yeah, it's turned out to be half of a Barber Dime. So that was pretty funny. So yeah, 24.5 Barber Dimes I found. Okay, and get ready for this, okay? 355 Mercury Dimes. It's like, I find a lot of silver dimes, like predominantly. And especially since I moved to Tennessee and doing like the urban lawns from like the 1900s, just you find a lot of silver dimes. You don't usually find a lot of quarters or anything amazing when it comes to the coins. But there's a bunch in there from my first year detecting. All of these here are Mercury Dimes. And last year, it was the same story again. I found more Mercury Dimes than I did all of my other types of coins, I think, combined. So that was pretty crazy. I think it was 56 of them last year, and I had like 103 silver coins total. So 355 Mercury Dimes. I'll just briefly show this one real quick because I had it set out. This is a Mercury Dime that was originally a blast white kind of color, and I left it sitting out for like almost a year. And take a look at the toning it got from the oxidation. It looks like somebody dumped gasoline on it. It's pretty cool. At first, I was kind of like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that because it was a beautiful coin, but how do you like that color on there? That's natural toning just from leaving it sitting out exposed to the air for about a year. And you can see the reverse where it's still white color. The front of it used to look like that. Not anymore. So there's that, 355 Mercury Dimes. The silver Roosevelt dimes are not too far behind with 278. And one of the reasons why I find more Mercury Dimes than silver Roosevelt dimes generally is just because they made Mercury Dimes for a longer period of time. The Mercury Dimes went from 1916 to 1945, and the Roosevelt dimes went from 1946 to 1964. So that's one of the main reasons you would think you would find more silver Roosevelt dimes just because they're newer. But it has to do with how long they produce Mercury Dimes, and also the types of places you metal detect. So 278 silver Roosevelt dimes, that's the pile from last year there. It's like 30 some. And war nickels, I've done pretty good on war nickels because I generally, at house permissions, I pretty much, anywhere that I'm finding good stuff, I dig as many non-ferrous targets as I can. So I do pretty well on the nickels compared to a lot of other people that metal detect and cherry pick. I've found 70 war nickels, and that's most of them there. You can see they don't look as good as the other coins because they're only 35% silver. So some of them can look pretty good like that one, and others can just look not so nice like that one. And this one, the jewelry is still, actually, let's show this one first. That's one I dug up that blew my mind. When it was dropped in uncirculated condition, and believe it or not, it actually has full steps on the Monticello. It blew my mind when I found that. Couldn't believe it. And the jury is still kind of out on this one. Let me know what you guys think. I found this behind an old house. It was obviously in a fire at a very high temperature. But you can see under there, it's like really white in color, and nickels normally don't look like that. And you can see even around the edges where there's no green. I mean, I never 100% confirmed that one, but I was almost certain that that's a war nickel. You can see even where there's not any green, it's like silver on the edge. Pretty crazy. But found that in a trashy area behind an old house where they'd obviously been burning some stuff. So that is almost 5 years of metal detecting from 2012 into the end of 2016. And I didn't show that one before when I showed the foreign ones. Yeah, I did. The 50 centavos. That's pretty much the gist of it. I didn't show too many of them here, but you heard the numbers, and it's similar to what's out here, except for a few of the foreign ones. So according to my records, those 5 years, it was, and I counted all these today and went through everything, it was 874 and a half silver coins. And like I said, it's supposed to be 2 more than that, but they're missing. So just really briefly going over to this year, 2017, I purposely didn't put some of the finds here because they are not uploaded in videos yet, and I don't want to spoil the fun on that. So this year, this is most of what I found so far, but I will give the total of where I'm at on silver coins this year. I'm at 69. I've had a lot going on this year with moving again. been a crazy journey for me the last 5-6 years, and also I've had a lot of dental work, moving and other stuff going on. But it's 69 silver coins so far this year, and hopefully I can get to that 100 mark again. Haven't had a year yet where I've fallen under 100 silver coins. It was close last year. I got 103 and a half. And this year, hopefully break that 100 mark again. It was 2015 that was my big year. I dug 265 silver coins in 2015. So this is what I found this year so far, minus, like I said, some that I'm not showing because they haven't been uploaded in videos yet. But we got a couple walkers there. Only 4 silver quarters, but I can't complain. For some reason, I've almost been doing better on my big silver coins than the silver Washingtons. I can hardly buy a silver Washington quarter. But then a pile of Mercury Dimes as usual. Tons of Mercury Dimes, that's what I find a lot of. Pile of silver Roosevelt Dimes. Under average for the war nickels for sure for me. I got 5 of those so far this year. I got 3 Barber Dimes, which is pretty good considering the places I've been looking. I'm now starting to get into a lot of older spots. But I'll show you this one, because this one I also found at a very old place, old intersection, where there was a lot of burned targets. I found a burnt token of some sort, and then this, which had obviously been in a fire and cracked. It's pretty crazy. I like that coin. Barber Dime, and then the seated Liberty dime that I found earlier this year, 1876, pretty worn. Found it in a gravel driveway of all places around a house built in like the 1920s or 30s. It was pretty strange. But yeah, I was down under old gravel area, and this I found at an old catty corner to an old railroad depot on that one amazing property that I uploaded 2 videos on earlier this year. Got me another British 3p. Second one I've ever found metal detecting. And this one is it's sterling grade silver. I think it's either pre-1921 or pre-1920. The British coins were sterling silver grade, and then after that they went to 50%, which actually I can show you here. This will give you a little idea, because I did find a 50% silver British coin, and you can see how they get a lot more corrosion on them because they're only half silver. That side actually turned out really nice, but it's this side that has a lot of the corrosion on it. And then you go to the sterling grade, and they always just look beautiful. And that was obviously on an old coin bracelet. So there you go, guys. That is a little bit of a journey through the last 5 to 6 years of metal detecting for me. And when I add in this year's totals, I have a total of 943 and a half silver coins found metal detecting. So I'd really have to push myself or get into some good spots if I want to get to that 1,000 mark this year. So we'll see if it happens. But whether it does or not, I'll be sure to film and take you guys on the journey with me. So thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you're out there finding treasure and taking inspiration from this, or if you can't or don't metal detect, I hope you enjoy the videos. So thanks for watching, take care, and happy hunting.